What is going on, guys? I am going to do a collection video for my most beloved system of all time, the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. Just a fantastic system that I just can't get out of my head. Out of all the systems that I've had over the years, I've loved a lot of different systems, a lot of different games, but the one that I always come back to and the one I have the most fondest memories of is the NES. And I'm not talking about that top-loading piece of crap. I'm talking about good old-fashioned, you open up the thing, put it in, push it down, doesn't work, it's blinking at you, you gotta blow the cartridges out. But that was just like the way of life for that thing. You know, the NES, even though those are things that seem silly nowadays, imagine playing a modern system like a disc or something, having to blow the disc and put it in there, oh, it didn't work, pull it out. I mean, kind of had weird problems maybe with the PlayStation. And I guess you still kind of have those problems now if your disk drive's screwed up, but I don't even know where I'm going with this, but let's just get started on the collection. I've got a pretty sizable collection here, about 35 games. Not the same games that I had from when I was a kid, but most of the same games. I rebought them. I don't have, these aren't the exact copies that I had when I was a kid. Just things, you know, happen, selling, buying, trading. I did that with everything back when GameStop actually took NES games, which they took them up until like the early 2000s, believe it or not. But anywho, this collection is filled with a lot of my all-time favorite classic games, and I plan on giving you some memories from when I was a kid with these games. Some of them I don't have memories from when I was a kid, but if I do, you'll hear them. Alright, let's get started. We're going in alphabetical order. I don't know if I've got something from every letter, but probably a lot of the letters, but like that really matters. Okay, so the first game we're going to talk about is Abadox, the Deadly Interwar. Now this game is a side-scrolling shooter. Sometimes it's a vertical shooter that goes down instead of up, which is kind of weird. And it goes up sometimes too. It's just whatever direction it feels like having. You're like, it's basically, you start outside of like some kind of creature, and instead of actually just going through levels like a normal game, you're going inside of a creature and you go like more inside the creature and you fight different parts of its body. It's kind of cool. Infamous for being pretty hard. If you've ever seen some user videos on GameSpot back in the day, Masumi, he couldn't even beat the first level in that game. I don't know if he put it on or if it really was like the spawn of Satan. His copy was like the evil copy from hell. But it's not really that hard, and I just played it recently. I went through and I almost beat it without dying, really, so yeah. Anywho, Abadox is a game that I have some history with, because when I was a young kid, I won a contest for playing Super Mario Brothers at a local store. I don't even know how you could win. I don't know if it was points related. I don't know if it was how far you could get in the shortest amount of time. All I know is I sat there, I played Super Mario Brothers, I got the highest score, and I won. And the prize was any game, pretty much, that they had. They sold games, they rented games, but any game that you wanted, brand new Nintendo game, was yours. And I really wanted Abadox, because I remember, I don't know if I rented it or my friend had it, but I really liked the game. And it was there. I'm like, oh yeah, Abadox, it's awesome. Being an impressionable little kid, I saw a cool box art that had an army dude on it, and it looked kind of cool, and I don't know, I was like, man, that sounds kind of cool. The game that I saw was Metal Gear 2 Snake's Revenge, and to this day, that's one of my worst decisions as a gamer that I've ever made, because I hated that game. I mean, not even just because like Metal Gear fans, oh, it's not true to Metal Gear, it's a shitty port or whatever. I never could get into the game. It was too difficult. It was annoying. I didn't get stealth when I was a kid. I still don't really get stealth. I don't like stealth. It's I've never really gotten anywhere in that game. I probably, like a pro could probably get through the length of the game that I got through. A pro could probably get through in like 5 minutes, and that's the best I ever did in that game. So kind of a crappy reward for winning a contest. I should have just went what the game was originally going to get, which I try to do when I go places. I'll be like, okay, no, but this looks cool, this looks cool, this looks cool, and after like 2 hours of deciding, I end up getting the same game that I was going to go get originally. I should just do that from now on. It would save me a lot of time and trouble, but oh well. So, second game on my list, we got Adventure Island by Hudson. I'm not really a huge fan of the first Adventure Island. Spoilers, but I don't have the second one, which I really liked the second one when I was a kid. And I was going to purchase it again recently. Actually, I was going to actually purchase it today. But I kind of went back and just tried it again on the emulator. I know, emulators. But I tried it again on the emulator, and it's kind of one of those games that didn't hold up as good as you remember it being when you were a kid. It's fun and all, but it's kind of like one of those games. I don't know why. When I was a kid, Adventure Island 2, something about the music and the graphics, it's just like, whoa, this game's amazing. And just wasn't doing it for me anymore. And I bought this copy of Adventure Island. I bought it 2006 when I bought a bunch of retro games, and no one had Adventure Island 2, but I didn't, for some reason, didn't ever get it. I always wanted to, but I got the first one. It was cheap, and it's pretty much the same kind of experience. I mean, the second one's better by far. The third one's probably better than the second one, technically. I don't know. Adventure Island, I used to love the series, but I guess it's kind of one of those series that not quite as fun when you get older. Oh well, what you gonna do? Alright, next game on my list, we've got Batman. Batman is a game that I don't really remember playing as a kid. When I got this game recently, though, my brother was watching me. He's like, oh yeah, I remember this game. This game's really cool. And I don't know if I ever played it when I was a kid. It's kind of got this weird thing about it, though. I don't know if it's just me or if the graphics are unclear or it's actually what it seems like, but it seems like you're always inside some kind of weird factory. Like, I think some of the levels you're supposed to be outside, like, on the streets, but it looks like you're inside of some kind of weird factory, industrial building or something. It's kind of weird. And kind of, when you go back and play a lot of those licensed games from back in the day, they really don't have anything to do with the actual game. It's like they made a game, and like they got the license to use a character for a game, and they just made a game however they wanted to make the game, and then they just made the sprite of the character you play as the licensed character, like Batman, but it doesn't. Like, Batman never went through factories, like, avoiding spiked walls and saw blades, and I don't know. It's crazy, but it's a really good game. I'm not good at it by any means, but it's pretty cool. So the only downfall, I'd say, is the fact that you have limited ammunition. That kind of makes it a pain in the ass to play, because you kind of need the projectile weapons to do a lot of the stuff in the game, and if you run out, you're kind of screwed. But anyway, moving on. This is one of my favorite games to this day, even. Battletoads, which is, I guess, kind of rare nowadays. It's kind of expensive. It's one of those games that's just the hardest game ever, and I'll probably never beat it as long as I ever live, unless I like devote my life to it. But it's just one of those games I just love. I mean, it's got awesome graphics. The levels are just super cool. And the difficulty is actually a cool thing to me, just to have a game that is just like so hard to go through. To where a game that playing it like 20 years later and then discovering a new level you've never seen in the game, which is something I did a few years back when I played it. I saw some levels I never saw before. And that's kind of cool. Like, kind of the cool thing about games back then, it was just like seeing the levels, like whoa, like, did you ever get to this level? I mean, I got this level, it's almost at the end of the game, you do all this cool crap, and then you like don't even believe them, or like, oh yeah, I got the last guy in the game, and he's easy, or he's tough, and it was just kind of like the thing you marveled at back then, like, you see what levels you could get to, like, oh my god, look at this level, I've never seen this before, this is cool, and that was kind of how it was back then, like, just getting to levels. Like, you didn't really beat your games back then, so Battletoads wasn't really some kind of like huge like different thing, like, oh, game's impossible. Like, a lot of games when I was a kid, I don't remember beating them. I didn't beat them until I was older, so I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up, when I was playing the NES I was like 4 or 5 years old, so I didn't really know. I mean, that's just how it was back then. You didn't beat games. I don't think I beat, besides like the Mario games, I didn't really beat much. Alright, so next game. This is a game that I never played until recently either. This is Bionic Commando. This game is actually really cool. I played it, like I played it on an emulator one time, a long time ago. It's kind of one of those games that's really tough, and it doesn't really help you. It doesn't really tell you how to play the game. And it's one of those games where you're like, when you first start out, you die in one hit, and it's game over. And you're like, what the fuck? So what you have to do is you have to manage to get through the beginning of the game, kill as many dudes as you can. You like level up and you get extra little sections on your hit bar to where like by the end of the game you could take like, I don't know, 10 hits or something like that. And it's kind of crazy because like that's really weird really weird design in the game. Like even the remake on Xbox Live and PSN, you start with more than one hit, and I don't know, maybe I should play that version of the game, but this version's pretty cool. I like the NES graphics and the music. It's like, it sounds like Mega Man, and it's a tough game, but it's really awesome. It's really, you know, the fact that you can't jump is kind of stupid. I think it's a cool, different, unique thing about the game, but it's kind of stupid because you're like, why can't I jump? I can't even do like a little tiny hop, just nothing. But anyway, it does definitely set it apart from other games, and when you do finally beat the game, you kind of think about it, you're like, I just beat a game where there's no jump button. And it's kind of freaky to think about. My cat's going to get in the way here, I can push one away. Anyway, yeah, it's a really awesome game, and when you kill the final boss, it's the most gory looking caricature thing ever in like a game I've ever seen, so I don't know how that made it past Nintendo censors, because they were really adamant against violence. So definitely pick that up. If you can get to the point where you can level up and get more than one hit before you die, it's really enjoyable. I think you'll like it. So that's Bionic Commando. Next game I didn't play actually until the Wii Virtual Console. Blaster Master. It's a really cool game. It's really unique. You're like in a tank, and the tank can like jump and like shoot in all different directions. And then eventually you get like hovering ability. And then you get like different missiles you can shoot to get through. It's kind of like a hybrid between Metroid and like Contra, kind of like the top-down stuff, kind of like Contra-ish. But then you're like in a car, but then you're on foot sometimes, and it's just a really unique game. I know they made 2 sequels to it. One's on Game Boy, and one's on PlayStation. And I heard that like nobody really even heard about it. I never heard about it. It's definitely a really unique game. The only problem with a lot of these games that's really stupid, Bionic Commando is one of them, Blaster Master, even like The Legend of Zelda. Not The Legend of... What am I talking about, Legend of Zelda? Super Mario Bros. 3 is what I'm trying to say. Jeez. But even Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES, a lot of these games don't have any kind of save function. No passwords, no battery, and you just gotta sit there for several hours and beat them. Maybe that's why I never beat them when I was a kid. I never really could sit there. When I was a little kid, I never could just sit there in front of the TV playing the game for like 5 hours straight without doing anything else, like without going outside and playing, or without doing my homework, or having to go to bed for school, or whatever. So maybe that's why I never beat them too. But I don't know. It's just strange. Anywho, next game. Bubble Bobble. Kind of talked about this game ad nauseam. It's a co-op game, and you pop bubbles. I don't think I'm going to say much more about that game. It's one of the best co-op games on the system. So if you want to hear more about it, go check it out. But I think anyone who's watching this probably heard me talk about it ad nauseum. So here we go. Castlevania 2: Simon's Quest. Infamously strange. If anyone's ever seen the Angry Video Game Nerds video, a lot of people probably didn't play it after that video, but it's actually not that bad of a game. Once you figure out the fact that the crystals that you pick up are like, you have to crouch down in certain areas to open up pathways, which is kind of weird. They do actually kind of explain this to you in the game. It's just very weird. Once you could figure that part out, the rest of the game's not that hard. It really isn't. There's only 2 bosses in the game, and they're optional bosses outside of Dracula. I think one of them you might have to kill. But one of them's definitely optional. and Dracula's pretty pathetic if you use the flame tower. So yeah, it's a really, I think it's, to be honest with you, I think it's the best Castlevania on the NES, and that's probably gonna make me sound retarded, but it's not overly difficult once you kind of figure out that thing with the crystals. It's not overly long. It's not, I don't know, it's just, I thought it was pretty good. It's definitely different. They tried something different, and I think that eventually they got it right with Symphony of the Night and the whole like open world thing. So I think it was a very important game for the Castlevania series, which I'm looking forward to, the 3DS one. That's coming out Tuesday, and I got a pre-order. So looking forward to that. Then I also have Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, which is technically the best regular Castlevania style game, I'm sure, on the NES. But it's a little tricky, some parts are a little cheap. The jumping doesn't do you any favors in that game, the fact that you're like locked in the position you jump in. The Castlevania games on the NES were all kind of really stiff and poorly designed in that regard. But, you know, I think we just kind of dealt with it. When I was a kid, I never really played, I don't think I ever played Castlevania on the Nintendo when I was a little kid. I don't think so. I think I only played the Super Nintendo one, which the Super Nintendo one's awesome, but they actually got rid of all the crazy control issues. But yeah, Castlevania 3 is pretty cool. Next game, Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. In my opinion, the best Double Dragon game. I never played the new Neon one, but out of the NES trilogy, which is basically what most of the Double Dragons even are, the second one's by far the best. It had the coolest levels, best music. It wasn't impossible like the third one. It was great. It was a fantastic game. Definitely probably different than, I think all the NES ones were different than the arcade games, which is fine because I don't like the arcade games. Yeah, so maybe the best beat 'em up on the system. It's between that and River City Ransom. I don't really know. River City Ransom's kind of weird. It's kind of like sort of an RPG, and you gotta level up, and then once you're leveled up, you can just power through the game, no problem. So I don't know. It depends on what you like, I guess. They're both good. Oh, this is a funny game. Double Dare. A game that I remember playing because my uncle had that game. When I was a little kid, we used to go over to my uncle's house during holidays, and he had a Nintendo, and I thought it was like he was the coolest guy in the world. He has a Nintendo, man. I used to sit there playing Nintendo pretty much the whole night. Most of the other kids would watch movies or talk, or the family, whatever. I was glued to the Nintendo, and he had Double Dare. And as dumb as the game is, it has a lot of nostalgia for me. As soon as the music starts up, I just immediately get transported into when I was a little kid at his house. It's kind of impossible. The obstacle course at the end is like impossible. Even if you like go as fast as humanly possible, I've never beaten it. Even like I played it recently, and I was doing really good, and I still couldn't beat it. So I don't believe it's possible unless you're not human. But it's a game show game. It's probably one of the best made ones on the system, probably because it's made by Rare. Rare made a lot of games, believe it or not. I wasn't really a Rare fan up until Battletoads and Donkey Kong Country. I didn't even really know who they were. So yeah, it's good. It's a good game. Next game is a classic, Galaga. I like the NES subtitle, Demons of Death. It's like, what the hell? Like, how would they even get that subtitle on an NES game back in the day? Because they were like so protective on what you could actually put in a game or title a game or whatever. So you take a game that's an arcade classic that's just basically killing a bunch of space flies or whatever, and then you add Demons of Death as a subtitle. It's just kind of hilarious to me. So it's basically Galaga. It's nothing different. They didn't make like Satan in the game or anything, but yeah, it's Galaga. You like Galaga? It's Galaga. Next game, hardest game ever, maybe? Battletoads is probably harder. Ghosts and Goblins. Probably never going to beat this game ever, but I saw it at the store recently and I had to pick it up because it's infamously hard. And I thank the Angry Video Game Nerd for giving me tips on getting the knife, because the knife is a lot better than the lance. Still doesn't help you beat the impossible game though. Like the red devils are really hard, and then some of the other enemies are almost more annoying. So I don't know if I'll ever beat that game. But hey, I got to level 2, man. So let's go on to the next game here. Enough about Ghosts and Goblins, because you know about Ghosts and Goblins. We've got Gradius. One of the few really pretty good space shooter games for the NES. I really want to play Life Force, because I know that's kind of like in the same like series or whatever. I never played Life Force. I never heard of Life Force until I watched the Angry Video Game Nerd. But I heard Life Force is actually really good, so I want to try that one of these days. I have never seen it though, so I probably wouldn't even. I guess I could read the label, but I wouldn't even know it if I saw it. I think it's pretty cheap too, so if I see it really cheap, like $5 or whatever, I'm gonna buy it, because I do like the space shooter games. I got pretty far in Gradius, and it's one of those games. I really liked Gradius 3 on the Super Nintendo. That was one of my favorite games, even though that's also pretty much impossible, as all those games are. But yeah, it's for being one of the first games of its type, it's actually quite amazing. So Gradius, definitely awesome game. Here's a game, another game that my uncle had when I was a little kid. Little Nemo the Dream Master. Is that in the right order? Yeah, Little Nemo the Dream Master. It's a really unique game. It's a Capcom game. It's an adaptation of an old comic strip. It's really cool. It's like you're inside of a little boy's dreams, and in the dreams you go to like all these crazy worlds of like, I don't know, they're just, I can't even explain them. You'd have to see them. They're just crazy worlds, and in these worlds there's animals, and you feed the animals candy, and then the animal lets you like turn in. You like go up to the animal and you like poof. You like either turn into the animal, or you like ride the animal or whatever. And the animals have special abilities, like you like turn into the bee, you can fly around. You get on a lizard's back and he can go up walls, or you get like a fish, you could swim, stuff like that. And it's really interesting, and it's a really tough game. I couldn't get anywhere in that game when I was a kid. I get maybe halfway through, which it was kind of funny because I had a friend online. He actually really liked the game too, but he never could beat level 5, and he said, "Oh, it's impossible." And I remember I played it for him over chat online, and I beat level 5, and he watched me, and he thought it was like impossible. He was blown away. And then I did him one better, and I recorded my whole playthrough, and I sent it to him online, all the way to the end of the game, beat the game, and him and his brother watched it, because his brother didn't believe he could beat it either. He's like, "This shit's impossible," and they were like blown away. I was like, that's a really hard game. I don't even know how I beat it. I was actually able to beat it from start to finish without dying. I got to that point. I guess maybe you play it so much, those old games, you play it so much that you just learn it like the back of your hand. So, on to the next game. We've got Mega Man 2. And this was a game I never owned when I was a kid. But my brother's friend used to have this game. And he used to always come over to the house, and every time he'd come over, he'd bring his little case of NES games. And there was a couple games he had that I always wanted to play, and this was one of them, Mega Man 2. It was just, I asked my parents for Mega Man 2 for my birthday. They're like, what do you want, a game for your birthday? I'm like, yeah, what game do you want? I'm like, Mega Man 2, I want Mega Man 2, the game's awesome. And I ended up getting Mega Man 4 when I was a kid, and I was disappointed. I'm like, oh, it's not Mega Man 2. But then turned out I really liked Mega Man 4. I don't have Mega Man 4 right now. I don't know if I'll get it again, because those games are getting kind of expensive now. But I really like Mega Man 4. I like all the old NES Mega Mans, except for 6. But, yeah, Mega Man 2, it's awesome. I've done videos on it in the past. One of my favorite games of all time. Probably my favorite NES game. He did that, or Mike Tyson's Punchout. I don't know, one of the two. So, move on. Metroid. Kind of one of those games that it's impossible to beat when you're a kid, because you don't know where you're going. And the only reason I've seen the end of the game when I was a kid is because there's a code that goes like right to the end of the game, and it's just like impossible to ever beat that game when you're a kid because everything's so confusing, everything looks the same, and that game's actually really tough to the point where sometimes you have to sit there and grind to get your life up for like, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, seems like. And it's kind of poorly designed, but I really loved it. Because when I was a kid, I used to always explore around in the game, and then I'd get deeper into the game, like, whoa, look at this area, I've never seen this area before. And then I never got there again until I was older, and I'm like, whoa, I remember this secret area I found when I was a kid. I haven't seen this in a long time. It's giving me that nostalgic rush. I actually beat the game recently on the 3DS Virtual Console. I was really happy to see Metroid was on there when I got my 3DS, because I just love Metroid. I like it more than Super Metroid, and that sounds crazy, but it was just the game that I played the most when I was a kid, had the most wonderment with, and I just liked it better. I don't know, it just was cooler, more intriguing to me. Super Metroid is more uniform, and the areas weren't quite as interesting to me, but yeah, I like both of them. They're both amazing games, but I really like the original Metroid. So on to my next game. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. In my opinion, the only version of Punch-Out, because Mr. Dream ain't got shit on Mike Tyson. You don't got the Mike Tyson version, you don't got Punch-Out, okay? No one wants to get to the end and fight Mr. Dream. That doesn't mean anything. That's like saying, okay, you're like in a fighting game tournament and you have the ability to fight Justin Wong, but instead you're going to fight Mr. Fighter, Mr. Fights or whatever, and he's just like a computer and he's just as good as Justin Wong. It's like, no, you want to play Justin Wong because you know he's amazing and you want to have the thrill of beating the best person that there is, or whatever, whoever the best fighting game is, but I'm just using Justin Wong. And so yeah, it's like Mike Tyson. Oh crap, Mike Tyson's a beast, man. I beat Mike Tyson? Hell yeah, I'm the man. But he's like, I beat Mr. Dream, man. I'm the man. No one gives a shit, you know? So, yeah, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. A crazy cast of characters, all really hard, getting harder as you go. Bald Bull, the standout character in that game, because he was just freaking huge. And then he would come and he would just go, boom, and knock you down. And you're just like, what the hell do you do to that, you know? So, I actually did master that game, though. I have videos online of me beating the game with no deaths at all. So, yeah. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, one of my favorite games of all time. I'm not going to talk too long about this version. We've got PacMan, Licensed Tengen, which is kind of strange. But yeah, PacMan. What am I going to say about PacMan? You eat ghoster. Anyway, next game. Paperboy. In my opinion, the best version of Paperboy. I have the Xbox Live Arcade version. I know Digital Eclipse or whatever, Backbone or whatever it is. That's not the reasoning. I just like this version of the game. It's the one I grew up with. It has cooler music to me, and it just plays better. I don't really like the extra modes or the different physics they have in the arcade version. I just like the NES version. I beat the NES version, and it's just the one I remember the most. It's fun. You're whipping papers at people. People are getting pissed off, and then there's enemies that look questionable. Like there's a dude in the street looks like he's trying to pull up his pants on the middle of the sidewalk, and if you touch him, you die. So yeah, there's that guy. Next game, Rad Racer 2. Another one of those games where you lose once, it's game over. And I've never beaten this game. I always get to, recently I always get to Las Vegas, and I can't beat Las Vegas because it's crazy. There's cars that like have homing freaking devices that just ram into you no matter where you go, and you try to get away, and it's like, you're like, bye, bam, and you spin out. And yeah, Red Racer 2. It's got cool music, it's fun. Maybe one of these days I'll beat it. That'll be one of those crazy achievements for me, but I don't know. It's too hard for me. Oh, this game I used to have when I was a kid, and I used to play it all the time. Anyway, next game. This is a game that I bought solely based off of the hilariousness of AVGN. Rambo. I heard it was basically a a knockoff of Zelda 2 in a lot of ways. Not exactly, but a lot of ways. But I think it's kind of a shitty version of Zelda 2. It's kind of a disgrace to Zelda 2. Zelda 2 is really fucking hard, but Rambo is really fucking hard for the wrong reasons. It's just poorly designed, and the levels are really confusing. Like, have you ever played a game where you get to the edge of the screen, and instead of, when it changes to the next screen, instead of taking you somewhere else, it just takes you to the beginning of the screen you were just in? So you have to, like, go, like, up and down pathways, and the pathways are denoted just by a little letter on the ground that says, like, N, and if you hit up or down, I don't remember which one it is, you go to a different screen, but otherwise you just kind of cycles forever. Like, it's like if you played Super Mario Brothers, and instead of just going left to right to get to the flagpole, you had to like randomly go north somewhere or whatever. I don't know. It's just really strange, and it's not really Rambo because you don't really shoot stuff at the beginning. But I don't know. I'm gonna play more later. I mean, not like later tonight, like sometime in the future. Hopefully, not anytime soon. But yeah, it's kind of crappy. Alright, next game I bought solely based off of a friend's recommendation. He didn't tell me, go get it, but he just said he played it when he was a kid. Rygar. This game is a piece of shit, but I actually did beat it. I did beat it recently. It's really hard for the wrong reasons. It's like really unpolished. It's really hard. There's a lot of enemy respawns. It's like worse than Ninja Gaiden. Because they just keep spawning in, like, no matter how many you kill, and a lot of the mechanics, like grappling hooks and stuff like that, doesn't work very good, so it's really challenging, it's really confusing, you don't know where to go, it's really hard, you can actually get to the point at the end of the game that if you don't have a health potion, you probably aren't going to beat the game. I had to actually backtrack, get a health potion, come back, it's a pain in the butt. You can only hold one health potion at a time, so if you use it, you're screwed. There's only a couple spots in the game you can get a health potion, like specific special rooms that are hidden throughout the world. You gotta like figure out which one it was, that kind of shit. So yeah, I beat it, and the ending sucks. It's a fucking rainbow and a dove. It's like, you beat the game. Cool. It's kind of how games were back then. You kind of expected something cool out of. You expect something cool out of modern games, but old games, you'd be lucky if you got the end. So, just kind of like the feeling of beating it, I guess, was your reward. I don't know. Next game, a game I never played on the NES until recently. We've got Smash TV. It's kind of a good version of the game, considering the circumstances. Smash TV, I mean, the one weird thing about this version of the game is the fact that the music cuts out after about, I think, like 30 seconds or 20 seconds or something like that. And then until you finish that room, there's no music. Then you go to the next room and it cycles the same like 30 seconds of music that the other thing had. And it's the same song throughout the whole game. It never changes. There's no different music for different stages. It does still have the voice work though. You still get, I buy that for $1. And so it's kind of cool that it's actually still in the game. But yeah, it's actually, besides that, it's a pretty good version of the game. It doesn't have all the power-ups, and the music's kind of messed up, and the controls aren't that good unless you're using two controllers and you're holding it like Wii remotes with the D-pads, and you can move like that and move and shoot, and that kind of hurts your hands, but at least it's there. And you can't play two players like that unless you have a four-score, like a multi-tap thing, which doesn't really matter because I don't usually play with anybody. But hey, it's pretty good. I didn't even know it was on the NES until recently, to be quite honest with you. So, alright, next game. Game that I haven't played until just recently. Snake, Rattle, and Roll. I heard it was pretty good. And it is. It's very challenging, though. It's kind of like Marble Madness with snakes. And it's multiplayer, and it's harder, and it's freaking awesome. It's made by Rare. Game I never played when I was a kid, but I actually got to level 9 recently, from like 1 to 9. I didn't use any warps. But level 9 is crazy. I won't spoil that for anybody, because once you get there, you're like... But level 9 is pretty crazy. And the game's got really cool music. It's really unique for an NES game. It's kind of using a 3D isometrical plane, but it makes the controls really tricky, so you gotta watch out for that. The perspective stuff. Some of the stuff's not exactly self-explanatory, like There's a part where you gotta climb a waterfall, and only way to do it is if you get a special power up that you don't even realize at all. So I don't know. That's kind of weird game design, but it's a pretty awesome game. And I want to beat it someday. I mean, I got to level 9. I think that's the last level. 10 might be the last level. I don't know, but pretty close. So yeah, so just picking that one up. Picking that one up is pretty. It's not that expensive. It's like, I got it for $10. Next game, Star Tropics. Kind of a really cool game that I never heard about until recently. A couple of years ago, when it came out to the Wii Virtual Console, I never heard about it. It's kind of like a Zelda game, but it doesn't play like Zelda. It's got the same kind of like level design in a way, but it's really unique. It's got like buttons. And it's like a weird like grid moving system, but it's still an action game. There's a lot of secrets, and then it's got kind of like an overworld RPG where you talk to people. I don't know. It's a really weird game. It's kind of advanced for its time. I think it's one of the later NES games. It's got a battery backup, which is nice. Yeah, it's definitely one of those games you should check out if you haven't. It's kind of like an over-the-top, like a top-down, like action game in the dungeons. Overworld's kind of like a top-down Final Fantasy almost, like talking to people and exploring and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, there's a second one I heard it's not that good, but yeah, it's one of those games that I'm glad I actually discovered. So the next 3 games I'm not even going to talk about because I'll talk for like a second, but really, what am I going to say about these games? Super Mario Brothers with Duck Hunt, Super Mario Brothers 2, and Super Mario 3. I mean, what am I going to say about Mario? The only thing I'll say is Super Mario Bros. 1 has a lot of sentimental and memories for me because my mom loved this game. It's one of the only NES games that she'd ever play, and that kind of it bumps it up a notch for me. And it's, to be honest with you, not even just that. It's probably my favorite NES Mario. I know everyone's like, "What about Mario 3?" But I never really was a huge Mario 3 fan. I liked the game a lot, but it's just, there's things about it I didn't like compared to the first game. The first game is just fun to play, so I don't know. That's just my explanation. Mario's. Next game, one of those nostalgic games that we liked as kids just because it was based on the thing it was supposed to be. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Based on, and I say based on, I mean loosely based on. It had the Turtles. It had Shredder. It had Splinter. Had April O'Neil. Other than that, no relation. And the enemies have no relation, and, well, some of them. I think it has Rocksteady and Bebop. I don't even know if it has Krang. I don't even know what the hell's in the game. To be honest with you, you'll be fighting, like, random-ass crap, and you'll be like, what does this have to do with Ninja Turtles? And the answer is nothing. So, it's a really difficult game. It's annoying. It's poorly made, and we all bought it. As I said, Ninja Turtles. I played it a lot when I was a kid, and I got to the part where you get to the overworld with the steamrollers and the blockades. That's as far as I ever got, and as far as I've ever gotten now. I tried playing it recently. I got to like the end of that area, but I could never beat it. I don't even, maybe that's the end of the game for all I know. I don't know. So, next game, one of my all-time favorite games as well. And people always down me for it. Tetris. Who doesn't like Tetris? Come on now, Tetris. And I'm not an all-time pro. I'm not gonna beat any world records. But my max level is level 17, and that's pretty impressive to me. Going from 0 to 17, keeping that going. It all kind of depends on if you get the right pieces, you know. But I love the game. It's one of the only puzzle games I like. I like Tetris. I like Luminous. And that's really it, man. This is the only puzzle. I like Puzzle Quest, but that's kind of like Bejeweled. I don't know. Those are really the only puzzle games I like. I'm not a puzzle game fan at all. But I love Tetris. One of my favorite games on the NES. Just a game you can pop in, have fun, see how good you test your brain, and that's all there is to it, man. And we got 3 more games left, so stay tuned, folks. We're almost at the end. Next game, Legend of Zelda. Oh, I got Blinding Gold card. Yeah, one of the coolest games, and the game that started one of the most popular series of all time, obviously. But back when this game came out, my story with this game, I hated it. Because when I was a kid, I had no idea what you were supposed to do. I never even found the first dungeon. I just wandered around. I'm like, what the hell am I doing in this game? What's the point, you know? I was like, I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the point of anything is. It's kind of a little hard, and it's just I just got lost. I don't think I ever even found the first dungeon. So when I was a kid, I basically swore off the Zelda series. I'm like, these games are dumb. Who's gonna play a game where you just wander around aimlessly? That's stupid. And I almost completely wrote off the entire series, but for some reason, when I had a Super Nintendo, I asked my mom to get Zelda on the Super Nintendo. I don't know. I think I saw some pictures in GamePro magazine. I used to get a subscription to that, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll give it another shot. See if my mom will let me get it. She got it on one of those like mail order places where you pay payments and stuff. And it turned out to be one of my favorite games of all time, Link to the Past for Super Nintendo. But yeah, I didn't really appreciate Zelda on the NES until I grew up, and I actually beat it without any maps, without any help or anything. And I was like, wow, this is a really cool game, but not one you play when you're 4 or 5 years old, okay? So, last two games, and we got a game that is really dumb, but it was one of those games I played all the time when I was a kid. The Simpsons, Bart versus the Space Mutants. I don't think I've ever even gotten past the second level in this one. It actually was always hard to even get past the first one when I was a kid. But I remember specifically, me and my brother used to play this game all the time. And I used to sit there and I'd be eating my cereal when I was a kid, breakfast, early in the morning, and my brother would be playing Bart versus the Space Mutants. And I always, when I eat cereal, I always like to have the cereal where it gets kind of soggy a little bit, because I didn't really eat like Tricks and all that stuff where it's like corn puffs and that gets soggy, it's nasty. But I used to always eat like stuff that was more like Frosted Flakes or like usually flake cereals and stuff like that. And then when that gets kind of soggy, I don't know, for me, for some reason I just like soggy cereal, like the flake stuff. And I used to always sit there and I'd usually wait for my brother to get to a certain point in the game, and I always knew that when he got to that point, my cereal was perfect. That sounds kind of silly, but I used to play it all the time to be like, okay, he's at this part, so my cereal's going to be perfect right now. And it used to always be, it was like a funny thing, but it used to always be true. And we used to play that game all the time. We used to always get to the mall stage. I could never beat the mall stage. It was impossible. I still can't beat it. I think I got to the boss before, or maybe I beat it. I don't know. Oh yeah, I did beat it, because the next level after that's like a carnival. Never could beat the carnival though. Game's hard. I did actually watch a playthrough of that online one time though, because I just wanted to see what the rest of the game looked like. 'Cause it was like this mystery to me, and never could get there when I was a kid. Kind of wish I didn't, because then it would leave me something to like fight on for. But I actually, the game sucks, but I think it's kind of awesome. Just it's got a nostalgia thing to me. It's a unique NES game. Not the best made NES game in the world by any means, but it's pretty awesome. I had to pick it up. And the last game is actually the game that I picked up today. Last game that I've added to my collection. Not a game I had when I was a kid. It's Tubin, one of the unlicensed Tengen games. But it's one of those weird kind of classic arcade games I never got a chance to play when I was a kid. Never heard of this game until a couple of years back. I think I saw it on Giant Bomb. They were doing some kind of like thing where they're playing a bunch of old games, and I know they said this version wasn't as good as the arcade version, but it looks fun to me. I played it a little bit tonight. It's pretty awesome. It's got cool music. It's unique. It's a cool little arcade game, but it's just funny to think about games like this, or hell, games like this. Imagine paying $50, $60 for games like that nowadays. It's just silly, because people complain about, they get a game that's like freaking, I don't know, Uncharted or something, and like, oh, it's only 8 hours long, what a waste of money or whatever. But just think of the production values of those games and the length and all the stuff you can do in those games compared to these games for the price. So it's kind of silly, but Tubin's pretty cool. You're like going down different rivers. It's like an inverted vertical game where you're going down instead of up, and yeah, you gotta try to like avoid hazards and collect stuff for points, and it's unique. There's a lot of levels. It's kind of a long game from what I heard, and it's a neat little arcade game. Glad I picked it up, and it kind of rounds off a pretty cool NES collection. That's all the games I have for the NES. There's some games I'm missing. I'll probably get at some point. I don't have Contra games because they're pretty hard to find. I really want to. I don't know. I'd probably get Adventure Island 2, even though I kind of said it's not one of those games that hold up. But I'd probably get that if I found it somewhere for like $10 or something. I'd pick it up. I want to get Gargoyle's Quest 2. That's a rare game. I want to get Metal Storm. It's really expensive. I want to get DuckTales. I haven't seen that anywhere. So there's a lot of different games that I'd like to try out or buy at some point. But pretty happy with my collection. The NES, one of the best games ever made, or one of the best systems ever made, excuse me. And the main reason I named myself 8BitWarrior. So, I mean, not on YouTube because someone else already has it. But yeah, for everything else, 8BitWarrior. Basically because I love the NES, and it's one of those systems I always take with me and look at fondly. It's one of those game systems that just doesn't get old for me. The graphics don't age for me. It's just, when I put in these games, it takes me back to being 5 years old again, or 6 years old, or however old I was when I played those games. I was young. I was born in '86. The system came out in '85, so I was pretty young. I was 4 or 5 years old playing these games most of the time, and they're pretty much just as I remember them. So with that, I will let you guys go. It's been a super long video, but I've been wanting to do this. I hope you guys have a great night, great week, great life, whatever, you know. See you guys later. Peace.